Man, here we go. Good evening. We'll get the special council meeting started. So we'll call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. And before we start, I want to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 2 land, traditional territory of Anishinaabeg, Cree, Ojibwe, Assiniboine, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. We affirm our commitment to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities, including the national government of the Red River Métis, in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation. We have a motion from Councillor Sticilo and seconded by Deputy Mayor Loughlin. Be it resolved that Council accepts the special council meeting agenda as presented. All in favor of the agenda? Thank you. Anyone opposed? We don't have to do this because all of Council is present. And so moved by Councillor Daly and seconded by Councillor Sobering, be it resolved that we now adjourn the special meeting to enter the public hearing as scheduled. And all in favor of that procedural stuff, folks? Here we go. So we will now proceed with the public hearing for the 2026 financial plan for the city. And I'll start by turning it over to the city manager to speak in favor of the plan and make a presentation for us. So Charlotte, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And good evening, everybody. My name is Charlotte Griffiths, and I am the city manager for the city of Dauphin. And welcome to the public hearing for the city of Dauphin's 2026 financial plan. Thank you to council for direction this year in creating the plan, and thanks to administration for their work in putting the budget documents together. I anticipate that the presentation will take approximately 20 minutes. There we go. Municipalities function primarily under the authority of the Municipal Act. So with respect to approval of financial plans, the act requires that municipalities hold a public hearing to present their financial plan to the public. Accordingly, this public hearing was advertised appropriately and is open to the public. I'm presenting this information on behalf of the Mayor and Council of the City of Dauphin. There are two main categories in our budget. One is the general fund and one is the utility fund. The easiest way for me to differentiate that for you is to say that the utility fund has to do with water and wastewater, and the general fund has to do with everything else. So public works, recreation, protective services, economic development, tourism, all the other things we do that's not water or wastewater. So first I'm going to talk about the general fund. And in each of those, there's revenue and expenses. So in the general fund, there are 4 different revenue streams. The provincial school tax, which we call the education support levy. Local school tax. City of Dauphin has 1 school division, and that's Mountain View School Division. So that's where the local school tax goes. Municipal taxation, so that's from the property owners within the city of Dauphin, and then other, which could be grants, user fees, fines, charges, other levies, not taxation, things like that. So to talk a little bit about, because I think it's important to know where the money comes from. So for the provincial school tax, that the education support levy, residential property does not pay that, but commercial property does pay that. This year that's set by the province at 7.411 mils, and it raises just under $1 million, which is just a little bit more than 2025. Something to note is that the city collects the provincial school tax on behalf of the province, and then the city passes it to the province. The city has no control over the amount that's levied, and the city does not keep any of that money. The second rate is the local school tax. So again, for Mountain View School Division. This year, the mill rate is for them that they set 14.135, and that raises just over $5.5 million. Similar to the last tax, the city collects it and on behalf of Mountain View School Division, and then the city passes that amount to the school. The city has no control over the amount that's collected, and the city does not keep any of that. The third one, the municipal taxation. This year, our mill rate is set at 19.021, and that raises just over $8.1 million. When all is taken into account, so it's taxation plus the taxes added from things get added that come onto stream mid-year, minus things that come off, say for a demolition, as an example, we are looking at a 5% tax increase, and that is about $500,000 more than collected than last year. The fourth revenue stream in the other category, as I said, grants, user fees, and things. Some of the highlights of the provincial municipal operating grant, $1.133 million. And I just want to take a note to say that the provincial government over the last 2 years has been giving us a 2% increase in that. There was about 10 years of no increase from the province before, so it is nice to have those increases. Another one is a provincial public safety grant, $1.2 million, that offsets the cost of RCMP for our community. Taxes added, so new assessment that would come online throughout the year. We're estimating that to be about $50,000. Business and animal licenses, $92,000. Federal grants, just over $500,000. Provincial grants, $8.1 million. Huge number. But that does include over $6 million for the childcare facility, which the City of Dauphin is just a flow through for that. Grants in lieu of taxes, federal and provincial. This line is for federal and provincial buildings or properties. They don't pay us taxes like any other properties, but they have a grant in lieu fee that they pay to us, just under $1 million. And then we are estimating that our accommodation tax will raise about $440,000 this year. Little piece that I put together to help people understand how much our tax is going up or down in a year. This year they are going up. And so what I take a look at is for something assessed, or for each $100,000 of assessment. Very rare do we have buildings or properties assessed at $100,000 if there's a building on it. But just for illustration purposes, $100,000 of assessment in the residential property looks like it will pay about $76.50 more this year with the tax increase. And for commercial properties, just under $100 for each $100,000 of assessment. So that was the revenue. Looking at the general fund for expenditures, there are 9 categories of expenditures in the general fund. That mirrors the provincial categories on how we report it to the province. And so some of the titles I'll explain a little bit, because general government services is a little bit vague, but this is council wages and benefits, staff wages and benefits, training, software subscriptions, which are going through the roof every year, City Hall general maintenance and repairs, CN Station general maintenance and repairs, community grants and appropriations, which this year we're valuing just over $75,000, which is up $18,000 from last year, as well as the municipal portion of the contribution to the Dauphin Regional Airport Authority, and that's just over $128,000, up $2,800. Overall, this section did increase just over 12%, and is looking at about $1.7 million. Next section is protective services, and this is by far our biggest portion of our budget, $4.659 million, with an 11% increase over last year. I've outlined what is included in our protective services category. So the RCMP, $3.58 million. City of Dauphin authorizes 15 officers and 3 admin positions. This value is also goes towards the rent of the detachment. City of Dauphin has a 20-year municipal policing agreement with the RCMP, and these are costs that are outlined in that agreement. This year, we're doing a downtown security pilot, and we are looking at putting in some contract security guards to help with safety for the summer. It's a pilot project to collect information about some of the goings-ons in our downtown, intervene where we can, and to collect data to see what can we do to go forward. Another category, our fire department. So that includes wages and training, operations of the facility and equipment. We also did a feasibility report for an addition to and an increase of an efficiency of the fire hall. We did some radon mitigation at the fire hall as well this year. Emergency measures help to coordinate our community in time of emergencies, so wages and training for that position. Building inspector, wages and training for that position as well. Animal services, City of Dauphin has a contract with a local contractor or local provider for animal control and animal bylaw services. This category also is where we have our spay and neuter subsidy included. We also have a trap neuter release program that we administer, and this year we're trying a new program. It's to help control pigeons primarily in our downtown area. Last 2 categories, insect control, mosquito larviciding, as well as bylaw enforcement. The wages and training are in that section. Next one is transportation services. And so this would be our public works department. So we've seen a decrease in that. And it includes the operating costs of our public works, like wages and training, operation, maintenance, and repair of the facilities and the equipment, curb and gutter, lanes and roads, general pavement repairs, crack sealing, general sidewalk repairs, ditch, drainage, and culvert maintenance, manholes and catch basins, mowing, street cleaning, snow removal, bridge maintenance, street lighting, and signage. I'm sure I missed something there, but it's basically the operation of our public works, that everything that you can see above ground. Next category, environmental health services. And this is garbage recycling and yard waste. So as I said, sometimes the category name is a little unique, but that's what that is. Basically static increase of 0.52% and a $1.1 million for that. This is the second year that the City of Dauphin has not done a spring cleanup. We are still doing a fall cleanup this year, and we are encouraging people to use their green carts for their disposal of waste. We've already started that program. We've got one week under our belt, and use those green bins for throughout the summer for grass clippings, trimmed branches, leaves, garden waste, things like that. We also are going to be doing a recycling awareness program this year, providing some education or re-education to the public regarding proper use of the bins, both at home as well as the depot. And that will be spearheaded primarily by a summer student. The next section, public health and welfare services. Again, virtually no change to this. City of Dauphin has participated in a one-tier social assistance payment to the province for quite a few years, at least 15 for as long as I've been here, and it's been longer than that. And we've also included a little bit of money in this for execution of our community safety and well-being plan, some advertisement of the plan, as well as some community input advertisement. The next section, section 6, environmental development services. This is some of the community programming that we have in our community. So winter life, holiday decorations that we see, the big wreaths and the lights that we have on the poles, installation and removal. Our community, city and community beautification, like Dutch elm disease removal, the flowers, graffiti removal. Weed control on private property who have infractions, and for residents who don't cut their grass, we do it for them. We do recoup those costs, but it is shown as an expense here, as well as city events like operating parades, Remembrance Day, and Canada Day celebrations. The 7th section is our economic development services. This has a decrease of just under 4%, but it's many years this fluctuates depending on what kind of development we have from year to year. This section deals with our economic development manager, community development, immigration, and tourism. We also have incentive programs, residential, commercial, storefront improvement. Some of the projects we're doing this year that fall under this category is Craft District, not just the detailed design, but also the finishing of the detailed design is in this section. New Residents Welcome Program. South End Scenic Site Design. That's something that will be rolled out a little bit later in the year, but we're looking at improving the area around the south entrance where Amisk the Beaver is, and facilitating just a little bit more space so people can stop, maybe take some pictures and enjoy that space a bit more. Some entrepreneurial initiatives, Sunshine Awards, and Immigrate Parkland. So again, that's our Parkland initiative, or immigration initiative for the Parkland. In terms of tourism, we continue with our place branding program, including some additional, every year we add to our photography and videography repertoire so that we can have new and fresh information on our website, as well as purchase of merchandise, which we then sell. Our tourism accommodation tax project, from the accommodation tax that we collect, 70% of that goes into recreation, which we feel stems or helps to build a better place for people to come when they are here for recreation. 30% goes towards tourism, which is attracting people to our area. And so we have an adventure fund that provides some subsidies based on certain criteria for events that are being held to see if we can give them a grant. Also goes towards marketing, sponsorship, and specifically a new stage for Dauphin Rec Services to help them more easily host events. A better stage and a more versatile stage that is portable helps to go a long way for those events. This section also includes the vet board appropriation. Next section, recreation and cultural services, $2.3 million. Again, not a lot of change from last year. This includes appropriations for facilities like the Watson Art Center, Fort Dauphin Museum, Dauphin Rail Museum, which is an in-kind contribution, as well as the library. It includes support for the community band and the jazz band. But majority, just over 86% of this value goes to the appropriation for Dauphin Rec Services. One of spending this year that's also in this category is a radon mitigation at the library. So to give a bit of a visual representation of those last 8 categories, just put it into a nice little visual chart. The big blue section on the top right is protective services. Recreation and culture is the next largest chunk of the pie, followed by transportation or public works. So just under 3/4 of our budget for this section goes into those categories. The last of those 9 sections is what's called fiscal services, and this is our capital and reserve transfers. Big number this year, 14 million. And the next few slides are going to talk about some specifics that we're doing for capital expenditures. So in terms of infrastructure, we're doing some reconstruction and rehab, as well as finishing off the south end drainage project. So for reconstruction, McLeod Avenue between Mountain and Heatherly, and for rehabilitation, Sandy Avenue between River and Forest. That's what we had started with. I don't know if I still have those limits correct, Daryl, because I know that we were doing a little bit of making things work in the budget. So those 2 streets will see some work. The endpoints, residents will know when we're going to be working on that. And something else I'll comment here, quite a few years ago, council had some direction to staff to spend at least $1 million on streets and sidewalks. With inflation and the need to hire an asphalt construction contractor who's not local, in 2025, this value was $1.7 million. This year, we're allocating just over $1.4 million. So we are doing good work to keep our roads and streets and sidewalks maintained. In the economic development category of capital expenditures, we have 2 projects on the books. Again, the childcare facility, I think I've referred to it as a daycare before. It's a provincially funded project where City of Dauphin is a flow-through organization, as well as we are working on the project management of it to get it up and running. Definitely been a few hiccups along the way. We had anticipated that it would have been built by March 2025. However, there have been quite a few delays with the province. So we are still, though, hopeful that that will happen this year. And a Craft District project for $1 million. The Craft District is a project that is funded by the city, 2nd Avenue Northwest between Main Street and 1st Street Northwest. It involves upgrading of the outside space, so the streets and the sidewalk, to make it more inviting and walkable. So it'll have things like widened sidewalks, improved lighting, additional trees and benches and bike racks. It'll also have a crosswalk mid-block to help pedestrians get from one area to the other. And through environmental design, will create a space where vehicles don't want to rush through it. They will actually feel that they want to slow down, which helps pedestrians to be safer. There will still be parking on either side, but it will it'll transform through some creative ways. I think, Councillor Sobering, we've been quite creative in the design of this project, and we're really looking forward to it starting this year. Some more capital expenditures. In the equipment and machinery section, we're looking at getting a few trucks or a couple vehicles, as well as a big hydrovac truck. Our fire department, last year we bought a new fire engine, so not as many expenses there this year. Some extraction equipment and, again, a new pickup truck. And then some small tools for our surveyors, as well as for our mechanics. Other administration, looking at some copier and postage machine expenses. We have minimized the capital costs of postage machines for years at the City of Dauphin, and we hold them together as long as possible. But it is time for that to be upgraded. And the last one I have on this slide is the library. So the library, the building is owned by the City of Dauphin, and they've been struggling with some leaking roofs the last few years. I think we've done some temporary repairs, but this year, and we are looking at doing a upgrade to the older section of the library, and that we should see that, if council approves the budget as stands, we should see that work happening in May. In recreation, active transportation, we're looking at doing about $500,000 of work with that. City of Dauphin and the arm of Dauphin have reached an agreement regarding recreation funding of joint facilities, and we have a per capita capital contribution scheduled for this year, $184,082. Vermilion Park is going to see a washroom upgrade, and these are the washrooms that are close to the splash pad. As well, DRS Rotary Arena, the chiller is getting upgraded, and I think that's the last, that's a portion of a carryover from last year. And then at our public works shop, the city shed and ER that was started last year, that's getting finished this year. That is the details of our general fund. Next section has to do with our utility fund. So I said water and wastewater. So this year, in terms of revenue, we sell water as well as wastewater revenues, and those are the things that we get water bills for, utility bills for, as well as bulk water. Manitoba Water Services Board is helping us out with a grant this year for a water and sewer capacity study. And then we do have $7.8 million coming into play with our lagoon upgrade, and that's through a grant as well. The City of Dauphin's utility rates are based on the Public Utility Board order number 138/24 and bylaw 11/2023, City of Dauphin bylaw. The Public Utility Board order and bylaw outlines the rates for 2024 to 2026 inclusive. Once we know more of the details of what it's going to cost to operate our newly upgraded lagoon, which should be done by early fall, we will apply for a new rate for the water and the sewer. Realistically, though, those new rates probably won't start until later in 27 or early in 28. Therefore, the utility rates for 2027 will remain the same as they were in 26. So just looking ahead a little bit for that budget. Looking at some of the expenditure sides. So this is a much smaller thing, not as many slides. So operating expenditures, this is for the water side. We are looking at but a decrease of 5%. And for the wastewater side, an increase of 50%. And just wanted to highlight that the wastewater operating has increased so significantly because we're doing contracted work every second year. So instead of having a contractor come in and help us do some work every year with smaller projects, we're looking at doing bigger projects every second year. So the expenditures do fluctuate up and down some, but same amount of work is getting done over a period of time. Some of the highlights, as I said, with the operating expenditure, so our lagoon upgrade should be completed in the fall of 2026. About a $22 million project. Help funding from the federal government and the provincial government through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, or the ICIP program, as well as the City of Dauphin. Some of our money is coming from we call them debentures or loans, some from our reserves or our saving accounts as well. We're also working with the Manitoba Water Services Board, as I said, to do a citywide water and sewer capacity study. 50% carryover, 50% cost shared between us and them. We'd originally thought that we would get that going in 2025, but the Water Services Board has pushed that back to a 2026 project. And also the lead service connection replacement incentive program. We still have that in the works. So if a water main line is being replaced on a street, and some of the residents or the residences or any of the private connections have a lead service connection, there is a $1,000 incentive for a property owner to replace that lead connection, so which is the line between the main line and their and the meter. So for any of the work that we're doing this year, residents will be notified if there are lead lines, and if anybody wants them done through this program, they will get some subsidy. Looking at some capital expenditures. So on the utility side, so some of the bigger things, we've got some water main renewal, Earl between Mountain and Bond, as well as Bushy Place. As I said, the Lagoon project, and we are purchasing a circular trench for the so a trench. It goes down into a hole so that the workers can safely work on pipes and not have the sides cave in on them. So definitely a very important safety item. All right. So that is the general fund and the utility fund and some of the projects that we're doing, and some of the revenues and the expenditures of that. I've got a little slide here about our debt analysis. Debt is not always a bad thing when it's investments in our community. So a bit of history. Back in 2015, we had about $1.2 million worth of borrowing or debt. Did a great job of paying that off down to about $700,000 in 2024. However, we've had some borrowing come online. So in 2025, we took some borrowing, $5.5 million for the South End drainage project, and that helped with we helped do the drainage so that the province could do the twinning of the road. And then again in 26, we are taking on $9.385 million for our Lagoon project upgrade. So at the beginning of 2026, our debt is looking at about $10.6 million. So when I take a look, when we talk about debt, we also want to talk about what do we have in the bank? What are our reserves? So right now, at the closing of 2026, so that's taking a look at the starting, and what are we going to take from our savings accounts this year to make the budget work. So we started this year at about $12.4 million in the bank. We're going to end this year with about $9.4 million in the bank. We have a general reserve, $2.8 million. Specific purpose reserves, $5.2 million. Those are things that we save for that are specific for specific purposes, like civic buildings or machinery, things like that. We also have a water and wastewater reserve, $1.3 million. And that is where we're at. So we're looking at drawing down our reserves in 2026. However, we're drawing down the reserves because we did the savings first to be able to draw from them. So as a summary, a few points here. Council's 3 priorities for 2026: safety and security, the craft district, and active transportation. So for safety and security, our community safety and well-being and downtown safety pilot that I talked a little bit about. We're also looking at hiring a community development coordinator. Part of that role will be to administer the community safety and well-being plan, which would encompass helping to coordinate social service groups and entities in our community to help increase or facilitate safer spaces. The other part of that role will be, in general, to make Dauphin a better place to live. When a community is great to live in, people want to live in there. When people are living there, businesses want to locate and expand here. So it's instead of looking at it to say, let's get the smokestacks and the people will come, what we're saying is make the community great and then the businesses will follow that. Craft District, as I said, improvements to 2nd Avenue Northwest between Main Street and 1st Street Northwest, additional or wider sidewalks, trees, and lighting to make that a more welcoming space, as well as active transportation. What we're looking at doing, a big project this year is looking at taking about 3 blocks of the trail on Mountain Road north of River Avenue and move it off of Mountain Road onto the boulevard. We're also looking at doing a few other connectors as well as some design to connect the trail from Assiniboine College to Main Street. Also, tax increase, 5%. And some of the important projects that we're doing again, Lagoon, which should finish in the fall. We're really hoping that our daycare project starts this year. We're doing a recycling awareness program. Our hydrovac truck is a big purchase that we're doing for our public works, and the library roof repair is something that we're doing at the library. With that ends the formal presentation for the budget on behalf of council.
Thanks very much, Charlotte. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor of the budget or make any comments related to what Charlotte presented? Okay. I just wanted to state, also just to acknowledge the work that senior administration has helped in guiding council in coming to these decisions. Scott, in particular, making it all work. I know that the city has very limited ways of generating revenues, and so that balance between how much debt do we need to carry or should be carrying, how much of our reserves should we be spending versus how much of the reserves should we be saving for that proverbial rainy day or when we need them, and then what proportion of what we want to do is comes through taxes. So those are the 3 components. So with that, is there anyone who'd like to object to or speak contrary to what's being presented? Keith, yeah, you can just make sure you push the button, Keith, so the red light comes on. Just state your name first, just because we're online and for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Keith, my name is Keith Durston. I just have a question about the Craft District project at $1 million being taken out of general reserve. Being a standard citizen, I've never seen the plans for this. I've never seen anything come up. And I was wondering if I could, one would assume that there's been a project study done on it and what the economic benefit would be for the city in order to do that. And I was wondering if I could just stop in tomorrow and have a look at it, because it must be there.
Certainly, it is. And we did have public consultations, and Urban Systems was a company that the city had contracted to help us with that.
Yes.
So you may have, obviously you missed that, but for sure, that is fully available and you can have a conversation. And Martine, probably to start with, to talk to you about the details.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the design and anything like that. I'm more interested in what the economic benefit will be for the city, not just.
Sure. And I can speak very generally. It's been this council's priority, or one of our priorities, to enhance. We believe, I think I can speak on behalf of council, we believe that tourism and the possibility of tourism is our economic development strategy. The more people that want to come here. So we're really pleased, especially with the development of Northgate system and the additional support we're getting from the province this year to enhance that and move it, getting into Raymond National Park. Most of the communities that we've looked at over the last 7 or 8 years, in terms of what drives their local economy, is bringing money in from the outside where people will spend money to be in our community. And that the couple of examples that we looked at, Cayuga, Moab, and a few places in the States, and out west in Calgary and Canmore, and a little further west at Whistler, when you have the built infrastructure, economics follow. People want to come and visit. So the Craft District is another piece of that whole puzzle. So that when people come to town, they can have an opportunity to spend downtown. And our craft district plan for this year also this year is the first year. We also want to incorporate all of the area in front of the historic train station and where CM Park is and where the Watson Arts Center, and to turn it into what we would think is a really active, lively, public place where people will be. So that's all in the plan. And that's sort of a general overview. I don't know if any member of council wants to comment, but you can come in tomorrow for sure and talk to a bunch of people.
Okay, I found that quite
Sure.
interesting. From what you said there, it's we're a lot colder place to begin with. From the places that you're talking about, the actual length of time that this could be used beneficial outside with people walking around is I don't know if it's comparable or not. That's why I wanted to see the economic benefit study. And my understanding was that there was going to road was going to be bypassed around in front of the fire station and then down through First Street. And now you're telling me that you're also going to do the second thing with First Street now. So where's going to happen?
I think you're speaking of, so right now, the Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, MTI, the province, has designated Highway 5A through Dauphin in on Buchanan, and then it turns to 2nd Avenue and from right to Main Street. We're looking at them redesignating it. So it's Buchanan, and then at the bridge and at the fire hall, it would go on 2nd Street to 1st Avenue. Basically, where the trucks are coming in now, we want them to designate that as the provincial highway instead of coming through right to Main Street on 2nd Avenue. So we are looking at doing this work on 2nd Avenue as well as 1st Street. Something to note, though, is that all of the design that we're doing on those two pieces of road do meet Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure criteria. So if the province said, no, we don't want to change the designation of that, the project is still viable because we're not contradicting any of the design rules that the province has in place. That's where all the trucks are coming anyways right now.
That's
Oh, sorry. So first
that is just,
northwest, First Street
Yeah.
to 2nd Street to 1st Street northwest.
No, not going to be shut off.
And then eventually you're going to do First Avenue, but in between you're going to make traffic go down. What's the long-term plan for changing it from First Avenue?
So there will be no
No changes. To
no
first.
no changes or limitations to where vehicles can go. We're just looking at changing the designation from the province to having it as 5A on 2nd Avenue to 1st Avenue.
There's no like in terms of we're not doing the same thing to First Avenue that we're intending to do to 2nd Avenue to try and temper and slow the traffic down and get the big trucks off of 2nd, because that becomes the core of the craft district and connecting to Main Street. But First Avenue, we still have like CN Park. We can't move CN Park. The train station is not going to move. The Arts Center is not going to move. And that traffic is already going down that street, the heavy truck traffic east and west. So we'll have to figure out other strategies if there's anything to make that area safe for pedestrians. But there's no further plans to change anything dramatically with the street to slow the traffic down on that part of it. But it's to turn 2nd Avenue into a friendlier neighborhood. We envision something like Corridon Avenue in Winnipeg, with all of the sort of, I would call it public and street activity on Corridon Avenue, that, you know, signage, lighting, sidewalks, benches, a little bit of other stuff just to make that area a little bit more comfortable.
Converting 2nd Avenue.
I don't think so, but we could have a conversation about that. Yeah.
We have a park, we have benches, we have things like that that are already on First Avenue, but you're gonna change it from first to second and then revert back to first again.
I,
It's already, what I'm saying is it's already there on First, if you have the park, you have the CN Park, you have the Dauphin Park, that used to be the CN Park, you have the Watson Center, you have all these tourist things there on the street existing. Now you're gonna send the traffic down in order to develop Second Avenue. I just want to see the economic.
I think that the important thing to note is that the traffic is already there. So if it's designated as the province kicks in money for it. So right now, the trucks are banging up the road on Second Street and First Avenue Northwest. The province has no financial obligation for that. And we find that people who don't know our area and they go right on Second, they enter our community on Second Avenue and try to turn at Main Street at the banks. That's a bit of a risk because there's trucks with trailers coming through and there's lots of traffic that's parked and there's trucks that have to back up or others that have to back up. So we're looking at making the area safer. We're looking at the province taking responsibility for the big trucks that are going through our community already, and and also making our community better for pedestrians as well.
You're talking about turning off Second Avenue onto Main Street as opposed to going across on Second Avenue. And when the road restrictions come out for on the bridge going to the lake, they're not going to be able to take that road and go all the way through the highway. Still going to have to turn on Second Avenue.
they're not on Second Avenue.
I think what would
Switching it over so they're coming up. They're coming up Second Street now, and they have to turn and come back down and go down to the highway. And when the bridge is, because of load restrictions, a lot of vehicles can't go across the bridge and out the lake. So they're still going to have to turn on Main Street no matter what.
I think probably a benefit would be to look at the actual engineer design, because I think there's some confusion about the routing, because regardless of whether you go down Second or First, you have to first cross that bridge. Like right now, the way it is now, you cross the bridge and you go straight, or you cross the bridge and you take a right then a left. And so the bridge will be, regardless of which route, the bridge is still a factor, right? But I think if you look at the urban systems drawings and designs, you probably have a better idea of what the proposal entails.
Yeah, you got $1 million in advance for it, but this doesn't give the true cost of what it's going to cost, because you also have the out of the other part of the budget for the plans and other stuff. So
It's all in.
yeah,
You can come tomorrow and you'll see everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see everything. It's all public, so you can
Yeah.
see it.
okay.
Do you have
fair
anything
enough.
else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else have something that they want to bring up in opposition to the 2026 budget? Is there anyone here today that would like to talk about anything else related to what's in the 2026 budget? Not in favor of or opposed to, but anything else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. So, all right then. So with that, if there isn't anyone else that wishes to speak, the representations for the public hearing portion of the special meeting today for our 2026 financial plan are now completed. So there's a motion then by Councillor Bellemare and seconded by Councillor Ray Be it resolved that council now reconvenes to the regular special council meeting. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. We have one other resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Sobering. Be it resolved that the public hearing for the 2026 financial plan now be concluded. All in favor? Opposed? And motion by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Sobering. Be resolved that bylaw 09/2026, being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin to set the 2026 tax levy, be now read a first time. All in favor? Opposed? All right, so that's the first steps of the process. We now have to take this, just for your information, this comes up at the next regular council meeting, which is typical process for the second and the third reading, and then after the third reading, it's finalized. So Keith, you can come in tomorrow. We can, Lisa, or you want to maybe check when a good time for Keith is to come in and who we might want to talk to about the specifics. And with that, the special council meeting is adjourned at 5